Okay. Good evening. Before we call this meeting to order, I'd like to read the following. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act related to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. So I would like to call to order the meeting of the Designer Selection Subcommittee of the Neary Building Committee. We do have a quorum, and the time is 7:37. The first item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the August 29th, 2023 meeting. Does anybody have any, corrections? Hearing no corrections. Chris, I would accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 29th, 2023.
I second that.
And I'll second. All right. My motion, your second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
I vote yes. Okay, so we have approved those minutes. Next on the agenda is the designer selection schedule review. Am I going to be turning that over to you, Jim?
Yep. Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, as we've seen this document before, so obviously RFS responses are back when we're in the review period of those. So the next step is this will be an initial meeting to kind of divvy up tasks and just make sure everybody understands who's doing reference checks and all of that. The next meeting will dive into the RFSs when folks have a better chance to kind of review them and do some reference checks. Two key things, or probably the primary thing, is that the charge of this subcommittee, we go to the MSBA on the 5th. That is when the designer is selected and ranked. This subcommittee, we cannot rank them. We can say who we like and who we want to go into the meeting as our preference, but we cannot rank them. MSBA actually sent a reminder email about a month ago on that districts can't rank them going into that meeting on December 5th. So just want to make sure that's clear. So yeah, really tonight we'll run through the agenda, run through the review documents, and then we can talk about this date. And we do have a little bit of the luxury of time because we were pushed to that December meeting. So really, I think everybody should be able to have 2 or 3 weeks to go through the RFSs and do the reference checks as folks want to do, and probably reconvene on the 15th. So that would be 3 weeks out. If we wanted to get together earlier than that, or a meeting in between there, that would be fine. But I think that gives us enough time between when we have to kind of finalize our review and all the documents that have to go over to MSBA for that meeting on the 5th. So any questions on kind of the next steps schedule, or what folks' preferences are for the next meeting?
No, that makes sense.
When you say preferences, Jim, are you talking about preferences for a date?
Yeah, yeah, and a date, and also the because that is 2 Wednesdays from now, or sorry, three Wednesdays from now. And also just if anybody really wanted to get together in between there to discuss any of their findings. Again, it's not required, and we do have a bit of time before the 5th, but do want to make sure that was open to everybody.
I'm not, so it sounds like setting a meeting in 3 weeks makes sense. I'm open to the idea that we might want to have a short meeting sometime before then. It is 3 weeks,
Hmm.
which would, I think, be driven by any of the members here in case they had some questions. I think one of the I think we have a challenge in where wait a minute, I see Mark is I see Mark is here.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Oh, great. Okay. So um I'm just putting that out there. There may not be a need to get together, but it's a new process for me. Chris and Mark may be very familiar with this process, so
I guess,
not
Jim,
there.
tonight, are we gonna assign who's gonna do what with each proposal as far as reference checks, or, obviously, there was plenty of information in the three proposals, each were about 85 pages. A lot of that with resumes and past job experiences, but, as far as time frame goes for, we have until the 6th, but it'll come quick.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
if
Chris,
it's-
did you, and I see Greg, I do see that you got your hand up. Chris, did you say 3?
yes,
Now I have 4. Did I?
excuse me, did I miss one? Or was my bad?
Or, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
Yep.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
I was very curious how the Aerostream proposal was so darn small compared to everybody else in actual size, but from the, I mean, from a storage, file size, but it was still complete. So go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry. Yes.
The 15th of November, I do have a regional school committee meeting.
Okay.
So that is a conflict for me. If we meet in the evening, I could meet early in the morning. So just want to make people are aware of that.
okay, yeah, and I just picked the date as 2 weeks or 3 weeks out, so we can always adjust the day as well.
Thank you.
Well, do you want to pick it since we're here? Is Wednesday? I mean, should we try Tuesday? Should we try Thursday? What do people look like as far as calendar? Everyone?
Wednesdays are school committee meeting nights for me.
Right.
Mondays work well. I usually have Thursday meetings as well. So the 13th would work for me. And I'm not sure if it works for others.
That works on my end.
That'd be fine for me.
Works for me. I wasn't looking. Did I, who all, has anyone said no? I've just heard some okays. Sounds
No.
like the 13th wins the prize, and it's also a little bit earlier, so,
Yeah, I was gonna say it shortens that 3-week overall duration, which I think won't hurt. So
Chris, does this seem to be a good, I know you like this specific time for this evening's meeting. What time?
Yeah,
like?
with kids' activities, I mean, I could float some in during the day, but with kids' activities in the afternoon, pickups and everything, this is a good time. Outside of that, it's we've had-
13th to 7:30?
Yeah, 7:37. That works for me.
Now's the time.
Yeah, if it has to be earlier, I can
You want
figure
to
it out.
are people tending to think 7 might be better? 13th at 7?
That'd be my preference.
Yeah, 7's good.
People like 7. All right, so why don't we go with the 13th at 7 as far as the next meeting? Anyway, Jim, I guess I'll flip back to you.
okay, all right, yeah. So we'll plan on the 13th. All right, so that's it for schedule. Is it okay if I just jump to the next?
Please.
All right. So the respondents themselves, let me pull up the. All right, yeah, so we got 4 respondents, so it was a little less than we were hoping for, but what I can say is all 4 of these firms are definitely known firms. They're definitely ones that can perform the work. It'll just be zeroing in who is the, who works the best for this project. So yeah, well, Lemmer Pagano, Raymond Design, Studio G, that they've had a lot of work in the last couple of years, and Arrow Street. So I've personally worked with Arrow Street, and then us as a firm, we've worked with the other 3. So we'll definitely be making some reference checks internally with these 3. So again, I think Lexington coming out just before, as I mentioned at the beginning of this process, probably limited this list a little bit. But I think 4 respondents is fine. And I think definitely very good firms that did submit. So with that, I just wanted to jump. We have some required review documents that we submit to the MSBA prior to the meeting. So I just wanted to run through those. So the first is this document. So this is just a document that takes everything from the RFS, the required pieces of the RFS, and we put them in a matrix form, so you can kind of review things across all of these categories, so you're not going in between documents. So unless folks want to dive into this, we as OPM typically will input all this information. So I would say in the next few days, we'll start to populate this and just circulate it amongst the group. So the first one is project understanding. And again, this is just taking everything from the RFS. You're reviewing, have they done reno, phased occupied renovation? Have they done a new building that's roughly in the range of the enrollment? Any of the same site challenges on other projects? Combining multiple schools and enrollments? And then the project scale, if that's within that range. So I highlighted this because I took these straight from the RFS, and those are what we're gonna, go through each RFS and say yes, yes, yes. When we come back, we'll review our yeses and nos. And if there's room for a little bit of discussion as far as whether another project really is a yes, that they do have the same project understanding, we can definitely work with the group on that. The balance of this sheet really is just, again, just the data from the RFS respondents. Their registration, do they have registered architects, their personnel, MCPPO, that's the state required licensing, and then just their staff themselves. And then so section 8, that's again, that's elementary school experience, combined schools, MSBA experience. And then again, just going into data of what was submitted. And then at the bottom is similar projects. So we would input this, they'll list all their relevant and similar projects. And you can put it again, compare it against the other folks that submitted. So unless anybody wants to jump into this, we typically do fill out all this information, and then by probably beginning a part of next week, we can send it out to the group. So any issues if we fill it out and then circulate it?
From here.
I think you answered my question, which is when if you're gonna go ahead and fill that out, you'll have it early next week, I guess, back to the group here.
Yeah, and we did start with Arrow Street. So yeah, we can have this together in fairly short order. So as soon as we can get it over to everybody, we will. And this really just feeds into the final discussion of when we're looking at, which firms we're leaning towards. So, okay.
Quick question.
Yep.
And I'm still looking, by the way, I can't see everybody on the screen at once, especially when we have screen sharing. However, if you do put your hand up, you pop to the top, so I definitely know that you're looking to say something. But right now I don't see anyone looking to say anything. So my question is, as far as the MSBA is concerned, and I know we can't rank these, what do they review?
So yeah, so they go through the same process that we're going to go through.
Okay,
Reference checking, reviewing the RFSs themselves. Because we, at the end of the day, the district has 2 votes on that designer selection panel.
effectively,
But-
they're going through a parallel process, really.
Correct. Yep.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
that's why they need it 4 weeks prior to the 5th. So we already got it over to them. I think we got it over to them on Friday. So they've already started their process of review as well. So yep, parallel paths.
Okay, I'm flipping back to you, Jim.
Okay. All right. Another review document, and we'll obviously put this one together because this is just data. But this is all of their sub-consultants. So you can review, who's doing architecture, who's doing each piece and part. The red and blue are a minority and women-owned business. So you can kind of take that into account as far when we're going through the RFSs. And down here, we do list out, exactly which firms are minority owned and women owned. So we can take that into account in the review.
Jim, is there a goal that has to be met percentage wise for like WBE or MBE?
Yeah, so we went with the in the RFS itself, we took the DCAM percentages.
Okay.
Yep. All right, and then the very bottom is just all the check marks for all of these items. If they're not performed, we actually have to reject them. So that's very rare for firms of this caliber to be forgetting stuff like this. But this is just our double check on all the things that are required as part of the RFS. So we'll input all that information as well and circulate it. Let me just check on the agenda. All right, so the next and the biggest workload is the reference checking. Is going through each firm, going through all of the all of their contacts and references, and making those calls. And it can take a couple of rounds of calls for to get folks to give you a call back. This document, however we delegate it and divvy it up, we'll have to have each person complete it. So I just want to make sure everybody's, it's fairly straightforward. So it's you call whatever reference they listed, whether it's the town of Arlington and the contacts, the superintendent there, and the type of project it was, and you walk through all of these. Again, this mirrors the RFS for communication, budget control, document and quality control, schedule control, and construction. And then have people rank it from excellent, good to poor. We do have a bit more information down here for when you are having those conversations, as to exactly, what to ask for communication. Did they keep all parties informed of the project developments and events? Did they attend meetings regularly? So yeah, just gives folks a bit of guidance on this. So getting to the next agenda item, we've had districts say, all right, as our OPM, you do the reference checks, come back and let us know how they were. We've had other districts that say, well, I want to dive into these two firms and you do the rest, Skanska. Or we've had a designer selection subcommittee say, we'll just divvy it up amongst the selection committee and then come back to us. So again, open up that discussion as to which route you want to go. I think, having us do at least some of the reference checks just with the, industry knowledge that we have, I definitely think is important. So I guess that's the question, how we want to divvy it up over the four firms.
I know that, I think so I'm happy to do a reference check. I know that, without anywhere near as much experience in this area as either Mark or Chris, I may miss some things, but I don't want to kind of duck a responsibility if it's important to do that. I may need a little guidance, okay, as far as specifically doing a reference check myself. So Chris and Mark, would you be doing how do you respond to this kind of part of the discussion where Jim is saying sometimes Skanska does the reference checks, sometimes it's the committee divvies it up? What are your views on this?
I'm open to it. If Jim, if you want to divvy up a percentage of reference or just someone each grab a designer, and we can hit the street now and start making some calls. Was it four? How many references per designer, Jim?
So a minimum, so we like to have at least four.
Four, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking a total of 16. So I think we could spread that around pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that makes sense to do. Okay, for each firm, one person will try and get at least one reference, and then divvy it up amongst four people. I think that would make sense.
Okay. Yeah, I'll lean to Jim's recommendation on this one. Whatever Skanska feels is easiest to perform.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would lean towards Skanska's recommendation on this. Do you find that you have different people? So let's pick a firm, and then there's four references. Do you have different people running down those references, so it's not the same person checking for references for the same firm? How do you find that? What is your practice on that, Jim?
So sorry, so you're not doubling up, calling the same reference? Sorry, I'm just not following the question.
Well, okay, so let's say we've got Aerostream, and Aerostream's got four references. Mark, go ahead. Maybe you're gonna figure my question out a little better than I am.
I know where you're going. So go ahead. You can continue.
Well, in other words, so we've got Aerostream has four references. Would the same person check all four of Aerostream's references, or would you divvy up Aerostream's references to different people?
So you can do it two different ways. I mean, you can have one person take a firm and do all those reference checks, or you can divvy it up so one person does a reference check for each firm.
Yeah. How have you found that it's worked best?
So as we're talking about it, you do have to communicate as far as, okay, here are the references that I'm checking, and you don't want to double up. You don't want to have two
Correct.
people talking about the same one. So it might make better sense to do it by firm.
Okay.
Yeah. Just as we talk through it, I think that would be the cleaner way to do it, so that we don't have any communication required as we do it. We'll say Skanska takes Arrow Street and we run with it. And then somebody else takes Pagano, somebody else takes Studio G, and then we can compare notes when we come back. I think that probably makes the best sense.
Mark, did I end up going where you thought I was going, or because I didn't really get it. I'm not sure what you were going to go ahead and say.
No, I think what would concern me is if we were to divvy up the four firms. I do one, you do another, Chris does another. I'm concerned we're not going to get a consistent result.
I have the same concern.
I have what my concerns are. They may not be the same as Chris's, and they may not be the same as yours. Knowing Skanska has done this before, I'm not uncomfortable with them doing the recommendations and filling this out, but I want to make sure on the end we get a reporting so that when we get back together, we may want to, one of us may have a concern that the references have picked up on, and I think then it might be prudent on our committee to maybe go back and pinpoint what our concerns are and how the references could answer that. Am I making sense?
Yeah, and I think a key point is that we're required for our due diligence and what we supply to the MSBA to provide that we check for references. That doesn't preclude, if you were to say, okay, Skanska, you do the reference checks, that doesn't preclude any member of the subcommittee to call a couple of projects that they reference. These are the ones that are required as part of the review due diligence and practice that we have to show to the MSBA. But outside of that, anybody can call any of the references. They may just not be formal ones that are noted here. But obviously, if somebody were to, we would definitely prefer to have it all be tracked. Does that make sense?
It does. So it sounds, go ahead, Mark. I'm not sure. And it sounds like you're promoting the idea of Skanska doing at least a round of reference checks for all of them, and then potentially, I don't have a view on this yet, but potentially anyone on the committee can follow up if there was something they felt uncomfortable about, or maybe maybe uncomfortable isn't necessarily the right word, but maybe incomplete about. Maybe they just one of us didn't feel that we had complete enough information about one of the references, et cetera. Is that where you were going, Mark?
Well, yeah, and to stretch it further, as I did a quick review of the four applications or responses, and I found myself, oh, they did this school. I know this school. I know this town. And I found myself going through each one saying, okay, if I had to call somebody, I'd look at this project, kind of a similar same size. But I have all my construction biases. I have all sorts of questions I'm going to ask, and I'm probably far more comfortable having somebody consistently go through it. And then if we feel we need to go back and double check a few things, and then we can. I may well pick up the phone and talk to a few towns where I know the projects, I know what they bumped into, and maybe there's something there that could be encouraging to help us break a tie or whatever it is that we conclude with.
Greg, did you have something that you thought would be
Just
helpful?
had a question around, so Jim, as you are doing reference checks, like at the district level, we have a standard reference check document with very specific questions that we ask. Do you follow a similar format where you have a template guiding questions that you ask, and then you add follow-up questions as you get more information?
Yeah, and that's this section
Yeah,
down here.
okay.
Yep, hitting all those points.
And
Um,
then my other general comment is, that's why we hire, this is my own personal opinion, this is why we hire an owner's project manager to be able to do some of this legwork and bring expertise and consistency to the process. So, if I were a voting member, which I'm not, I would think that having Scansa do the reference checks, there's a value add to that.
Well, the
Great.
reason that makes sense to me, I can't see you anymore on my screen, Chris. But the reason it makes sense to me is I can tell you if I took a designer and did all the reference checks questions, and Mark took a different designer and did all the different reference check questions, I can tell you we get two very different results. And I can also tell you that I probably have a lot more confidence in Mark's results than in mine, based on this kind of work, and also on Chris's and in mine. But Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And to be honest with you, I've been down this road before. They're not going to put references down that are going to give them a bad review anyway. So
Right.
you're gonna probably expect to hear what you're gonna hear about each of the firms. So
and to that point, we sometimes, as it might not be listed, but we say, oh, that's interesting. They didn't list X project that we know they did. Why
Right.
is that? And
Right.
we'll call that project.
right,
So,
you can do some other means of digging.
okay.
No,
Yeah,
I'm in
we
agreement.
are totally comfortable, as I said, to do all the reference check if that's the preference of the group.
Yeah, I mean that's what you guys are here for. So it's
Yep. Okay.
Sounds like we're there.
Okay. Not a problem. All right. Yeah, so we'll try and get the reference checks out. Just with the rounds of calls, it can take a little bit of time, but obviously we'll get it out before the next meeting, so folks can have a chance to review all the data. Okay.
All right. Am I going back to you, Jim, as far as the agenda?
Sure. Yeah, I think we touched on reference checks.
Now we're down to representation, MSBA.
Yep. Probably the most crucial thing that we have to do tonight is the representation, because we have to send the contact information over to MSBA on Friday, as far as who is attending the designer selection panel. So how the procedures spell out is, I'll start with typically what we see. It's the superintendent of schools. It's somebody on the town management side, the town manager, or that side of things, but that can be different. And then the chair of the building committee, a lot of the times will also attend. We are required, let me just pull the regs up. So we are required to hit all those. So it is representative of the school committee, superintendent of schools or designee, chief executive officer of the town or designee. So all of them are or designee. I definitely would say having the superintendent at the table is important, just because they are the educational head of the district, and obviously their opinion carries a lot of weight. And just with the MSBA to really push that, definitely think it's important to have them around the table. So I'll open that up to discussion as to who should be there.
Well, you just mentioned three positions, if you will: superintendent of schools, the school committee member, which is me, or designee. So let's talk about that in a second. And the representative of the town, which would be Mark, I presume, or designee. So, and then you said these are kind of these are the ones that generally we need to have.
Yep.
I guess I'm paraphrasing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could obviously designate one of the other members of the subcommittee. I could designate either Mark or Chris, okay? I mean, unless you actually want the school, unless having the school committee member there representing the school committee is important from an optic standpoint. I'm just trying
I
to
think, yeah, and I would definitely support that. I do think it is.
Okay.
You know, check the box, the school committee, or not check the box. I don't mean it that way.
No, I get it.
For
Don't
the-
worry. I'm not
For the
offended.
school committee, for the, you know, the school administration itself, and then that third member, you know, we can discuss.
Superintendent, school committee, and then we said third member being the town representative.
Yeah, so it's chief executive officer of the town or designee.
So what happens? You get a select board person there, or does it have to be someone that's already on this committee? Because then that would be Mark, right?
So it would have to be somebody that's on the committee.
I think seems like Mark's elected, right?
So moved.
Which is fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't mind, and believe me, Jim, don't ever worry about looking at me as a check the box kind of situation, because I am in a number of these situations. So I recognize that. All right, I'll leave it at that.
So just a quick question around the chair of the Neary Building Committee, Jim, you had mentioned, is not important for this particular meeting?
I think no, I think with the group that we have, I think it's fine. Yeah, I think it's you know,
We can send 4 people.
yes,
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah,
Okay.
you only get 2 votes though.
Yeah, I would say, obviously it'd be up to Jason, but I would say if Jason is able, I think there's real value in having Jason participate in the meeting. Even, you know, however, who votes? We just determine which 2 of the 4 are going to vote. Is that how does that determine?
Correct, yeah.
Any
Yeah, this,
any of the 2 of the 4 can vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
which
I think
it would venture to be assumed that they
Yeah.
would have the same vote.
exactly. Exactly. And it probably should be assumed that any of the 4 who were selected would have the same vote as any of the other 4. And when
We
get
did
to
have one district that all of a sudden somebody went rogue and they didn't vote, or they voted different, so.
well, that's Mark. Okay. So all right.
Okay. But yeah, so I'll distribute the contact information over to them from you folks, and I think, and I might reach out to you, just I got to pull up the email. I think it was pretty much just name, email, and rank and title. So yeah, so we'll get that over, make sure we get that over by Friday, because that solidifies our spot we were already tentatively on the 12-5, but this solidifies it so that we are 100% for the 5th. So
you're gonna list the 4 people we believe are gonna attend.
correct. Yep.
Now I'll reach out to, we haven't spoken with Jason, but I mean, I'll reach out to Jason tomorrow just to confirm. Because I'm guessing that if for some reason he was not able, or was not of the opinion that he wanted to do it, we would probably want a 4th person, right?
Yeah, and that also gives you a little bit, because you have to have 3.
Right.
So if
Okay.
you know, something came up, illness, schedule, conflict, you know, you'd have at least your minimum of 3.
So Jim, can I
I'm
just ask
sorry.
a question, Jim? What's your experience? How many districts people usually attend, or town people attend? 5, 4?
Yeah, it's usually four. It's not
Okay.
usually more. It's not,
Cool.
6 or 7 or 8. It's just it's the smaller group that's kind of been designated.
Um, it looks to me like then, if we're moving, if that item is completed, then it looks to me like based on the agenda, it says public comments. So I'm used to that meaning one thing at these meetings. What does it mean at this meeting? Sort of Jim, is that?
Do we have anybody in the audience? I don't.
Oh, okay, so that's, so we're, let's see. I see Sam. Sam, I don't see your hand up. Do you have any public comment you'd like to contribute at this point? Okay. Sounds like no public comment. So we're now gonna confirm the meeting schedule, which really is the 13th at 7 o'clock for the next meeting. And does anybody have any additional business that we haven't covered tonight?
Good.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for adjournment from either Chris or Mark.
I'll second.
Sounds like we had a motion from Mark, a second from Chris. It's no discussion, take a roll call vote. Mark,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
I vote yes, it is 8:18. And thank you. And by the way, thanks for sending that that agenda over to me, Greg, because the screenshot I took, I sort of cut off the bottom. So that was actually got me through it. Not sure where mine went. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
All right, good night.
Have a good night. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna
Night.
pause or stop the recording.